Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares, and we're delighted you're in class with us today. We broadcast from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Central Time. If you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. And I don't know if the telephone listen line's working. I don't know. I didn't check it this morning, but I checked it last night. It still wasn't working. So if you would like to let Zeno Radio, Z-E-N-O radio.com know that you really appreciate what you do, or they do, and you'd like them to keep doing it, support@zenoradio.com is the email address, and you can let them know that sure would be neat if they had the telephone listen line working, because it's stuck on a re-broadcast from over a week ago. That's support, S-U-P-P-O-R-T, at Zeno Radio, Z-E-N-O radio.com. And on the subject line, just say USA Prepares is stuck on rebroadcast, and give them the telephone listen number that's stuck. Actually, they're all stuck. But the one that we can use is 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. Let them know that that's the number that's stuck. And I've contacted them. I sent them some emails, but maybe if they got a few hundred more emails, it might give them just a little nudge they need to get it fixed quickly. Gwyneth Isaacs is with us this morning. Welcome, Gwyneth.
Hello, Vincent. How are you this morning?
Well, I'm kind of frosted. Not because it's below freezing, but I'm frosted because, we were talking about the millennials. And, you called in with Patrick, our engineer, and we were talking about how the millennials, need to know more. And actually a lot of what has happened, I blame my generation for, the baby boomers, because we failed them. We failed them in school. And I mentioned that some of the responsibility is the millennials. Some of them is the government. Some of it is George Bush, No Child Left Behind, which really means no child has a chance. And the parents have wanted to make it better for their children than their parents have had it. So they bought them things. Instead of cutting the lawn, Junior, I'll tell you what, we'll hire some guy to cut the lawn. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about changing the oil in that lawnmower. Heck, that's dirty stuff, and we don't need to do that, so we'll hire somebody. So Junior didn't learn how to cut the lawn, change the tires, tune up the car. He didn't learn, how to saw wood, make things out of lumber. Didn't know how to use a hammer, screwdriver, tape measure, those kinds of things. Things that common knowledge, but in the baby boomer generation, but not so common today. So we talked about that, and I told a story yesterday, and I want to share it with you. So our son went to a coin show in Springfield, Missouri, and there are three of them that went together, my son and two others, and my son was paying for the tickets, and I guess the other guys gave him some money, and he wanted some change in order to buy some things at this coin show. So he went up to the lady at the table where she was taking the money for entrance, and he gave her a $100 bill, and he said, "This is for the three of us. So that's $5 plus $5 plus $5. That's $15." And she had to make change for the 100. She was kind of fumbling around, got out her phone, did the calculation, needed her phone to be a calculator, so she could subtract 15 from 100 to find out how much change she needed to give our son. This is a person who's in her 40s, a woman in her 40s. And then she tells our son that, math is not her strong suit because she's an English teacher.
She shouldn't be any sort of teacher. She doesn't know how to do that simple arithmetic.
That's really, really simple, right? So she gave him $85 change, and she said to him, please check it, because she wasn't sure if it was right. Now, first of all, who would hire someone to be at the front money desk that can't make change? Right? And I don't think it's not, and she must have seen a $100 bill before. She must have. How is it possible that we have a teacher who doesn't know simple arithmetic? Now, this is what I've been saying. Now, add to that the scandal in Baltimore, Maryland, where it's been uncovered. dailymail.co.uk has a story where the students have been getting grades they don't deserve. Baltimore, Maryland has among the highest, if not the highest, administrative cost for schools in the country. So when you hear, well, if we had more money, we could teach these children better, that's absolutely nonsense, because this is the proof that it's nonsense. So in Baltimore, Maryland, there are 6 schools where the students have graduated, and not one is proficient in math. Not one student. Let me say it a different way. 0 students are proficient in the math exam for graduation in the Baltimore school district that has 6 schools in it. Not one student can pass the proficiency examination. However, they're graduating. And they have the highest cost of administration. So we're overpaying these fraudsters. Now, the way I look at it is the superintendent, the principals, the teachers, all those people who are involved are perpetrating a fraud. And it's racketeering. They're all in it together. They're all in it together. And I've seen this, and I've been in this mix where I had a student when I was a consultant, and that student did not do well. He would put his head down. He'd wear one of those hoodies. He told me that I'm picking on him because he's black, and I tell him, no, I'm actually picking on you because it's your turn. And so I went to the administration, and I said, what do I do? And they said, well, whatever you do, he didn't tell me what to do. But whatever you do, don't get us on the front page of the newspaper, and don't get the NAACP to show up. Don't do that. Whatever else you want to do, that's up to you. So I turned over the grading to another teacher. And I'm not really sure what he did. But here's the problem. We have students who, they don't want to learn. They're not interested in learning. And even if we make it fun for them, they still don't want to learn. Now, maybe they have just awful circumstances at home. Maybe they're beaten. Maybe they're abused. Maybe they don't have heat and running water. And that's true. In Virginia, there are homes that don't have heat and don't have running water. And the children don't have much food. And teachers try to ferret that out and try to make sure that these young people actually do get a chance to eat and do have heat and do have, safe living conditions. And we really try to do that. But sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we don't know. I had a student, young girl, and I'm just going to tell it like it is. I hope you don't think I'm racist, because I'm not. I have many dear friends who are black and red and yellow and white. And this gal was one of my students in Virginia, and she needed a ride home one day. Now, it's really not advisable for a teacher to take a student home, because then all kinds of things get conjured up in some people's minds. But she needed a ride home, and I just did what was right. And it was, darn close to 15 or 20 miles from school. There's no way she could walk home. So I drove her home, and I found out where she lived. She lived in a cabin. And this cabin was about the age of a slave quarters cabin. About 24 by 32 feet, made out of old timbers. And I could see through the window the light. There's one light in the cabin. It was hanging down from a cord. It was one light bulb, hanging down from an electric cord from the ceiling. That was the light. I'm not talking about a light fixture. I'm just talking about a socket and a light bulb hanging down. And that was the light for the entire cabin. As far as running water, well, there was a well pump outside. And as far as bathroom facilities, there was an outhouse outside. So we don't necessarily know the circumstances of some of the people whom we work with, we teach, or next to us at work, who are on the radio with us. So this gal lived in a cabin that was probably built in the 1840s, and it hadn't been improved upon since.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'll tell you what, after the break, I would like to go into some information that could be a game changer for everybody and could make all of these problems look rather irrelevant. Okay?
Yeah.
I'd like to get started. I've learned just this information in the last few hours.
Very serious topics today, class. Guineith Isaacs is going to share them with you. Guineith, please tell us what your thoughts are.
Okay. I think I was going to talk today about, in a collapse scenario, what we can do to protect ourselves, especially if there are no firearms allowed. Okay? And I think I had a number of different angles. I think I was going to go into that in hour number 2. Okay? There's a change of topic for hour number 1, at least, and this may stretch into hour number 2, but it's so important. I've just found this information out in the last few hours. Our class may have heard this information already or not, but I'm going to go into it because it's really, really that important, okay? It's just come across the news today from sources such as Fox News and various other mainstream sources. Now, this could be building up to a false flag. It could be part of the operation that the NSA and all the alphabet agencies say that they were planning for this weekend anyway, okay? But the threat could be real. Either way, it does tie in to my original topic, okay? We are facing this weekend nationwide in the United States, possibly throughout the entire continental United States, a grid-down situation, okay, of the most massive scale imaginable, potentially. Now, originally, the first information that was coming out came out Thursday, Friday last week, and this was actually, I believe that this is actually legitimate information because it doesn't come through Fox News. Okay, it doesn't come through the Clinton News Network. It came from sources that speak to Alex Jones from within the alphabet agencies, and it's hardly ever that they give him false information. Okay, I'll go into this, but then I'll go into other scenarios that are definitely out there in the universe and that are probably even more possible and more real and more devastating. Okay? The source, Alex Jones's source, the only reason why I'm saying this is because Alex Jones has said it already. Okay? He said it on his show Thursday and Friday of last week. Okay? But I saw this in a dream or a nightmare, probably around about a month ago. There are going to be people from Antifa and various Muslim groups, okay, like ISIS and whatever their latest name is that they're calling themselves, who are going to take firearms and are going to use transformers for target practice. And if they choose to do this, I am absolutely not advocating this. This would be devastating for every local area that they choose to go and do this. Okay? These people are so stupid, so brainless, that they will take out the transformer and then go home and wonder why the lights won't turn on and off, and wonder why their Wi-Fi is not working, okay? And like I say, that is probably the most genuine and most real threat that has come out. But it's not the one that I heard about just a few hours ago, just before I went to have my nap before the show. Okay? We need to be ready all across the continental United States for a total silence and darkness grid-down situation. And I would like to tell you some more about that on the other side of the break.
Plus, Guineith Isaacs is with us. She's live in Australia. And I just want to tell you, a month ago or so, she called me in what I would consider a near panic. Not a full-blown panic, but she was very, very concerned. So concerned that she called and I wasn't at the phone, and I don't have a cell phone. So she called and left a message and then called me back. And she was telling me about what she's telling you right now. Very serious. I don't have any disagreement with this. I'm very concerned about it, and I'll tell you how concerned I am after she continues telling you the rest of the story. Please continue.
Okay. As amazing as it may seem, it's about to get a whole lot worse. As if it could. I'm laughing, but I'm laughing as a release mechanism. I don't actually think it's funny. I think that this is incredibly bad. Okay. It's come across the lamestream media. I don't have satellite TV. I don't have cable TV. But I do, I go on the internet, either on my phone or on my laptop. We have satellite internet, and I go onto YouTube, and I watch various blog posts, various commentators, okay, who I know are reliable sources. One of them is Pastor Paul Begley. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a really, really good guy. He's a Christian, and he's a Cornfields, Indiana preacher that God told a number of years ago to go set up a YouTube channel and go spreading some information that he knew. Okay? So he's a very effective speaker. But this is where I got this information, and also, he was referencing, lamestream media information that he had from Fox News, from CNN, from various other sources. Okay, apparently, this is getting hammered at the moment. Now, what this could be one of two things. It could be real, or it could be the build-up to a alphabet agency drill that they actually have planned for this weekend, okay? Or it could be both. We don't know, okay? We actually don't know. But in the end, or it could be a combination of all of those factors, it could be that they that the alphabet agencies, CIA, FBI, NSA, got wind that this was going to happen and, decided that they happened to hold the drill on the same weekend, just so that people didn't flat out panic. Now, we've seen that before. That is exactly what happened on 9/11, okay? And the CIA, FBI, NSA went public on the press the week before 9/11 happened and said, we're going to have a drill where we're just going to pretend to fly some planes into some buildings and we'll see how that goes. Okay, we all know how that went. Anyway, what makes me think that this is probably a real and genuine threat is that word has actually come from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, okay, from Donald Trump's White House office, that this is an operation that is being conducted. The United States Air Force at this moment is sending B-2 bombers, stealth bombers, equipped with nuclear weapons. We don't know, of course, if they really are equipped with nuclear weapons, but they're nuclear capable. That's the wording that comes across in the press. But, read between the lines, guys. God put a brain in your head. They are sending stealth bombers from Missouri, of all places, to North Korea. That is not going to go well, okay? The reason why I think they're going to do this is these people, these North Koreans, are totally brainwashed in their fire ants. So I think that what the people who inhabit the government in the United States have decided to do is to pour some kerosene down their fire ant's nest and set a torch to it with nuclear weapons. Now, what has been happening as well in the last few days, and there are photos and videos of this all over the internet, there was a Russian-type stealth bomber, not a stealth bomber, but, the Russian equivalent technology that they have. And it was being dogged by F-15 and F-18 jets, okay? Meaning that the Americans say they were just following it. But on RT, they're saying that they're very, very upset about it. And that these F-15 and F-18 jets that were Japanese and American, and of course who provided the F-15s and F-18s to the Japanese anyway? America did, of course. But they are very, very upset about it. The Kremlin's extremely upset. That could well be the straw that breaks the camel's back. It could well be over the weekend and over the next week, okay, that we could be looking at an all-out nuclear war focused on North Korea. And Russia has already declared multiple times what their response will be if the United States ever interferes with a country or a region that they feel that they control. And North Korea is definitely in that category. Okay? They have repeatedly said over the years that they are going to EMP the United States. And this is just me putting all these puzzle pieces together. And please, I'm not taking the Lord's name in vain. I'm really genuinely saying, my God in heaven, help us. This is so, this is not good. if this pans out like what I'm seeing, I'm a chess player. My son, who's 16, he has an IQ of 145, can think 5, 6, and 7 moves ahead. I'm not that good at chess, but I can at least think 2, 3, and 4 moves ahead. And what I'm seeing here, I don't like. I don't like one little bit. And like I say, it's that the information is not just coming from Fox, from CNN, from NBC, and from ABC. This information is coming directly from the White House. It's going through Infowars.com. It's going through Russia Today. That is what makes me believe that this is not just a scenario that they are designing for their own ego's sake and the fact that they're holding this stupid drill over the weekend, which happens to be an EMP grid-down situation. But they say that it's limited, but believe me, if you're living in one of these areas where they have the so-called limited grid-down situation, you won't know that it's just you, okay? Because even if none of this happens and it's all just a drill, there's no guarantee that some stupid nutcase from Antifa won't go and plink the transformer that controls your area. They have published that they are planning this exercise for this weekend. It's been broadcast on the Alex Jones Show Thursday and Friday of last week. Oh, gosh. And you have to get ready. You have to make some final preparedness preparations now, if you live on the grid or not. Because if it goes to the worst case scenario, where the Russians fly their bomber in the stratosphere, their version of the stealth bomber, which is like our version, is not detectable with radar. Okay, and they decide to drop a nuclear bomb and then set it off at 20 kilometers up, which is what an EMP is. That's what the Russian EMP weapon is, okay? You won't know whether it's that scenario, whether it's just the alphabet agencies having a play, whether it's Antifa plinking. All that you'll know is that the lights won't come on, there's no trade and commerce at the stores, and that the internet is not working. And for many people, that will mean that they can no longer work. It will mean that the just-in-time delivery system fails, and it will be the domino that sends the whole thing down. I would like to discuss this some more on the other side of the break.
Guineith Isaacs is with us. I think we're going to do this for the next hour as well. Guineith Isaacs is with us. Guineith, please continue.
Okay. When the ads were on, I think I would have to go back to Paul Begley's podcast and just listen to this again. But I'm pretty sure that he actually said that one of his sources was one of his listeners that actually worked at the Air Force base that these B-2s were leaving from. Okay? I'm not sure about that. I would have to go back to the podcast and have another listen to it. But anyway, I don't think that it matters because, like I say, the fact that RT, which is owned by the Kremlin, is jumping up and down about this as well. It's not just one of these things where the deep state decides to set up a false flag and sends out a whole lot of false news reports through CNN and Fox, okay? Because if that was the case, then RT would not be there in the mix. Okay, RT is openly run by the Russian government. That's just how it is. Just like anything you hear from Al Jazeera, they are owned by the Saudi royal family. Okay, and it's fine to get information from Al Jazeera or RT, but you have to be aware that RT is owned by the Russian government, and Al Jazeera is owned by the Saudi royal family. But like I say, it's gobsmacking. This may be what we have been preparing for this whole time. And I'll tell you what I saw in the latter part of my dream, okay? I saw chaos in the United States. I saw people absolutely losing it because their smartphones and their Wi-Fi and their cable TV and whatever other mental anesthetic that they were on was not working anymore, no matter how much times they pressed that silly little button. It was not going to ever turn on again, okay? You have to think of the magnitude of the implications of this. It will certainly affect me here. I'm not happy about this, but there's nothing I can do about it. And so I've determined that if and when this happens on such a massive scale, I'm just going to spend a whole lot more time in my vegetable garden and on my paddocks. And I'm going to probably start getting into some horse training or something like that, some other income-generating activity that I know how to do, okay? Because, you can't, if you're in a situation where you can't do anything, it's very, very important to try not to worry about the circumstance and to just pray, put your trust in God, do what you can about the things you can do something about, and just leave the rest of it to God, and just, be persistent in reminding God that you're here, you love Him, you're trusting Him. Okay? This dream that I had, it was absolutely awful. Okay? People were going really, really crazy. I don't think it's going to matter so much anymore anyway. Okay? But here in Australia, when we had that, that big hack attack in the United States last year, or was it earlier this year, we didn't have any internet here in Australia because most of the big websites are based out of Silicon Valley. Okay? And when they go away, for all intents and purposes, the whole internet goes away. So, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Google, all run out of Silicon Valley. And that's the worst-kept national security secret ever.
Hold that thought.
And when they go
continue.
Down, the whole internet doesn't work.
Cocked, locked, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Guineith Isaacs is with us. Guineith, just a very short comment. I just heard on the news just a minute or two ago that the announcer said that U.S. home prices rose at a healthy clip. The reason I'm mentioning this is these words are twisted. Okay, home prices rose at a healthy clip. That means they've increased. That means that they're farther out of the reach of young people. So the news is twisting words, actually saying that this is a good thing. Home prices are up. That's insanity. Now, am I going to pat myself on the back because our farm is worth a little bit more than it used to be worth, and worth more than a few years ago, and worth more than a few years before that? I mean, this is crazy. Our young people don't have a chance. I just wanted to make that comment. Please continue about this serious threat that we have.
It's a serious situation, and something I really hope that this information is not correct. I really, really hope it's not. You know, if it's correct, then, you know, it won't matter what home prices have done.
That's exactly right.
It really would. Oh, my God, help us. My God in heaven, help us. Because, you know something? You know, it won't matter what home prices are doing because there won't be a real estate market in the United States.
Well, that's exactly right.
It's going to affect everything. It's what we have all been preparing for all these years. Mm-hmm. And if you are somebody who's preparedness-minded and you have had a plan to do something in the event of a catastrophic set of circumstances, my advice to you now is to put your plan, whatever it is that you have decided to do, to put it into action. So if you have decided that you're going to go to a bug-out location or a bunker in the bush or whatever it is, then now is going to be a really good time to do so, especially if your bug-out location is hundreds of miles from where you actually live, okay? Because, you know, when this EMP hits, if, you know, unless this all begins to cool down real quick with some top-level diplomatic negotiations over the, you know, next few days, okay? Russia, you don't, my dad had another saying. I think I've said a few of my dad's sayings over the time I've been on air. Here was another one of his sayings. He says, you just don't poke the bear, okay? What happens if you are out in the middle of the forest, Vincent? We don't have bears in this country. What happens if you are out in the middle of the forest and you happen to stumble across a sleeping grizzly in the middle of the forest and it's fast asleep in a glade? Do you go and poke it with a stick?
Not hardly.
That's what you do not do if you see a grizzly lying in a sunny clearing and the birds are singing and the butterflies are, you know, and the butterflies are butterflying all over the place. If you go poking the bear, you're going to get Hugh Glass. Do you know who Hugh Glass was?
Please share with us.
He was a mountain man. Probably lived about 150 years ago, more than 150 years ago, during the beaver trapping boom. Okay? And there was recently a Hollywood movie made about him, and it starred Leonardo DiCaprio. But this was a true story. And Hugh Glass was trapping beavers together with some of his work colleagues out in the, you know, in that area of the country, and somewhere in the Louisiana Purchase, and which, as you know, is a jolly big piece of land. What happened was he happened to accidentally come between a mother grizzly and her cub, and this mother grizzly absolutely went wholesale at him and almost killed him. And it so happened that he had rather a large knife on him, and he managed to stab the grizzly to death, but not before it had made his back like a plowed field, and it had just about ripped him to pieces. Okay? You don't poke the bear. You do not poke the bear, because if you do, the bear is going to fight back. Okay, especially if, as far as it's concerned, you stood between it and its cubs. Okay, and in this case, the bear cub is North Korea. The mother grizzly is Russia. She's been called a mother bear for generations, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and the description has always been true. You don't poke the bear. If you see the bear lying quietly, don't poke it. Now, America, over the last 6 months or year, has been mercilessly poking the bear, and the bear has shown a great deal of patience. Okay? But this latest issue where the F-16 and F-15 and F-18 jets were dogging the Russian bomber, stealth-type bomber, although obviously it's not a stealth. They have their own version of the technology, of course. And they were merciless. They were just hanging on its tail for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kilometres, just off behind the wings. Do you know what I mean? And
yes,
that is the location. If you are in an aircraft and you look out the window and you notice sitting just behind you and just maybe 100 metres or a few hundred metres to one side, there's an F-18 just off behind you to one wingtip, and then another one to the other wingtip, and then one flying just above you, and then one flying just below. I don't know much about U.S. Air Force tactics, but I suspect that's probably an attack formation. Would I be right, Vincent?
Well, it's a really precarious formation, because if the aircraft being pursued makes any sudden movements, it's entirely likely that there'll be a crash and that at least two planes will go down. Yeah, so you can't move suddenly. No. And these Russian bombers are big planes. Mm-hmm. You know how big an F-18 is. You know how big an F-15 is. Okay? They're comparatively small, comparatively maneuverable. Mm-hmm. But this thing would have to have been about the size of a 747. Okay? Mm-hmm. It would have been comparable in size to a U.S. stealth, a B-2. And, the other thing is if that F-18 pilot decided that he was going to do some plinking, there would be absolutely nothing that the bomber could do about it, and it would be bye-bye pork pie to that particular bomber, because it could not possibly turn around and do anything about it. And all that you can do is to try and maintain contact with whoever it is who is literally right on your tail. There would not have been 100 metres between the closest of these jets and this, Russian bomber. And the Russian government got extremely upset about it, And the U.S. responded, well, you were in American airspace, and we were escorting you out of the American airspace. That may or may not have been true, okay? There may have been fault on both sides, but we may well just have witnessed the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand here, which was the, incident that supposedly caused World War I and led to the death of millions and millions and millions and millions of Empire, U.S., Russian, and German soldiers. Mm-hmm. And that Archduke Ferdinand moment may well have consisted of these, F-15 and F-18 jets dogging this Russian bomber. Just as an aside, I've had in my hands Archduke Franz Ferdinand's hunting cutlass. It's absolutely spectacular.
Really?
I've had it in my hands. Yes, I have.
That's amazing.
And you're absolutely right.
You hardly ever hear that story now. It's only people who have really been raised with history now that really know that story.
Let me share something with you, since we're talking about the potential for a grid down situation. This is from the Sun, thesun.co.uk. It's dated today. North Korea nuclear base collapses, killing at least 200 people amid fears of massive radioactive leak. The collapse happened in the nuclear test site in the country's northeast on October 10th. So 21 days ago this happened. Now, I've heard some backstories that there was some testing going on, and we blew it up. We blew up the test facility. And now, did we? I don't know. It's just what I heard. And
boy.
So, yes, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, and I've got some more comments. We'll be right back. Guineith Isaacs is with us. Let me continue the rest of some more of the story. thesun.co.uk, dated October 31, 2017. The disaster has prompted fears of a massive radioactive leak, which could spark a Chernobyl or Fukushima-style disaster. A North Korean official said the collapse happened during the construction of an underground tunnel. Now, let me read that again. A North Korean official said the collapse happened during the construction of an underground tunnel. Now, these are my words now. That doesn't mean that the construction of the tunnel caused the collapse. It happened during the construction of the underground tunnel. Some people think that we may have nuked North Korea and just given them a small little demonstration of what might follow. Yeah. That's what some thoughts are. And then it says, the article continues, some 100 people are said to be trapped by the initial tunnel collapse, which further 100 lost in a second collapse during a rescue operation. Now, so that's what it says. So are tensions rising? Yeah, they are. Is there potential for a war? Yes, there is. Am I concerned? Absolutely. Now, you add that to what we discussed during the first hour of a potential grid down simulation. Now, I read the same information independently from you. We didn't discuss this, last week, but to the extent we're talking about it. But I read the same stories or the same kinds of information that you read about, Friday and Thursday last week, that the government of the United States is preparing to do a grid down simulation. And Mrs. Finelli, I mentioned that to her last week, and she said, so what does that mean, a grid down simulation? How are they going to do that? Are they going to just say, okay, y'all go home and act like you don't have electricity, and act like your cell phones don't work, and act like your Wi-Fi doesn't work, and Netflix isn't working? Y'all go do that? Is that what that means? Or does it mean they're going to unplug the grid? And she was asking me very serious questions. How are they going to simulate this? And then what about the people who don't know that this is a simulation? Exactly the same things that you were talking about, Guineith. And she was asking me.
Yep.
Now, during the top of the hour break 27 minutes ago of this broadcast, I went down into the kitchen of our farmhouse. I'm broadcasting from our farmhouse. I always do. And I said to our family, okay, guys, Guineith just confirmed that she read the same things that I read independently. So while I'm on the air, you guys figure out what we absolutely positively need to get now while everything's still working. What do we need to get today? Figure that out right now, please. That's what my family's doing. The boys and my wife and my mom are figuring that out while you and I are on the air. I'm serious, class. I am very concerned. Am I sure this is going to happen? No. I'm not. Do I believe it can happen? Yes. Do I know it'll happen? No, I don't. We're just sharing with you the information that we have. Now, for the last 6 years that I've been on the radio, I've been suggesting that people prepare. And I've suggested that they do like a little fire drill Friday night, right after work. Get everything you need because the power is going to be down at 6 o'clock, local time, wherever you are. And you shut off the circuit breakers during daylight of everything that's not necessary for medical survival. Okay? So you shut off everything, but you leave your refrigerator and freezer running. Any medical devices you need, you leave them running. But all the other breakers you shut off at your breaker panel. You put tape across refrigerator and freezer and faucets and toilet. And you turn your cell phone off. And you simulate your own grid down situation. What's it going to be like? And then for the next 3 hours, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., your power's out. And you sit around the kitchen table and talk about what you don't like. Like the fact that your electric can opener doesn't work. And you write down all these things that you don't like. And then that is your list to have things ready for when it really happens. And I've advocated this for 6 years. How many people have done it? I've mentioned it at the meetup. I've had volunteers. No one, let me say it a different way, no one has done it. No one. Well, it could happen this weekend. It could happen. So think about it. Class, just a little over 3 years ago, I was on stage running for the board of directors position at our local electric cooperative here in Missouri. And I mentioned this on the air several times. I'm just going to do it again. I pulled out a cartridge, a 5.56 cartridge out of my sports coat pocket. I held it between my thumb and forefinger, and I said, paid about 20 cents for this. One of these can take down a electric substation. Thousands of people will be without electricity. I didn't explain exactly how to do it. I didn't want to, and I'm not going to. And I'm certainly not advocating it. I explained it, and I verified before I went on stage with the engineer at the electric cooperative. He said, you're absolutely right. That could happen. So the platform that I was running on was we need to protect our power grid from that happening. Well, not everybody thought I was serious. Not everybody believed me. And some people thought it was, and I'm going to use their words, idiotic, what I was saying. So 3 years later, I was on stage, and that was in August of this year. And one of the board of directors' spouses, her husband, saw me, and he said, did you bring your bullet? I said, no. And he said, that was idiotic. I'm using his words. Idiotic. And I said, what do you mean? He said, that's idiotic. I said, I can't help it if you don't understand. So here we have the board of directors' spouse telling me that what I was saying was idiotic about taking down the grid with simple firearms. It's absolutely true. Now, of course, I'm not advocating. So what am I going to do about it? Well, I advocated protecting our grid from that kind of terror. Now, if it happens that these substations are taken down and there are no spare transformers to replace them, there's no warehouse you can go to and say, well, look, we got a bad transformer. It melted down, so let's get another one from inventory. There is no inventory. Those are all custom for that exact location. The one down the road from it, 20 miles down the road, that's different. It's not the same. They're unique. One of a kind. And we have these one-of-a-kind transformers all over the country. No spare parts. So what am I going to do? As I travel, I'm going to be vigilant. I'm going to look around. And if I see something suspicious, I'm going to do something. Now, I don't want you to think I'm going to take the law in my own hands. I'm going to start shooting people. But I'm going to be vigilant, and I'm going to be watching. And I'm very concerned that these kinds of things could happen. And it's not like I'm saying it today because Guineith said it. I've been saying this for 6 years. I've been laughed at. How concerned am I? Well, I built a solar array by hand. Guineith has one. A number of our instructors have them. Why did we spend the money on this instead of going to Disney? Because we think it's real. We think the threats are real. And just try living without electricity. I'm telling you, no one, I've taught this in seminars. People have traveled hundreds of miles to come to my seminars and listen to what I have to say. But have they actually done it? No. They won't spend 3 hours without electricity. Well, it's too hard. It's inconvenient. So they don't know what it's going to be like. But when it really happens, they're going to know what it's like. And what do they say? They say things like, well, if things get really bad, I'll go to Vinny's house. Really? I'm telling you, don't come to my house. I can't help you. I've been trying to tell you what to do, what we're doing, but I can't help you. I don't have enough blankets to cover our extended family. I don't. And I don't know anybody who does. And if you're depending on the Red Cross, you've lost your mind. The Red Cross is a money-begging organization. They used to pay their chief executive officer over $600,000 a year. Does that sound like an organization that really wants to help people? Think about that. Who was one of their CEOs? Elizabeth Dole. Who is she married to? Robert Dole. Who is he?
I was going to say, isn't she Bob Dole's wife?
Yeah, Bob Dole.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, $600,000 a year when she was at the helm.
The Democrat presidential candidate.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an old story about Bob Dole, and when he was running against Bill Clinton, a reporter said, well, Mr. Clinton, do you prefer boxers or briefs? He said, briefs. And the reporter said to Bob Dole, Senator Dole, do you, and he was old at the time, do you prefer boxers or briefs? And he said, depends. Now, depends. That's incontinence undergarments. It's like diapers for the seniors.
Oh, dear.
Anyway.
I get it now. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's like about 2:45 in the morning here, so.
Yeah. I really appreciate you being here. So you had this nightmare, and this is in concert with what happened a couple weeks later, 3 weeks later, that we read the news on the internet that says that the government is going to do this simulation. I don't know how you simulate a grid down situation. How do you do that? A coronal mass ejection, an EMP. You just you put posters around town. You put it on the TV news that we're going to simulate. Not everybody watches the news, including Guineith doesn't, and I don't. Okay, so we wouldn't be getting that on the news. So how would this information get out? I'm telling you, people are not going to know. Some might, but is everybody going to know that there's a simulation being planned? Some people are going to think it's real.
The thing is, this is all across the United States, and they're not telling people where they're going to do the simulation.
Right.
Which makes me think that they have a tip-off that something big to do with the electrical grid is in the works anyway from various enemies of the United States, and that they just plain don't want people to panic. They want people to think that this is just a simulation, and that by the time they realize that it's not a simulation, that this is real, that that panic moment will be over. I'm thinking that that's probably their plan.
Let's talk about this. So what do you do, class? Well, if there really is an EMP, your high-performance, high-speed electronics that are attached to wires can be easily damaged. The wires, what kind of wires? Well, like the cord that plugs it into your wall outlet. Those are wires. And the wires in your wall are wires. Okay, so they all act as antennae. And these antennae will pick up the electromagnetic pulse. Boom. It'll travel along the wires and go to its ultimate endpoint. What is that endpoint? Well, in my studio, it's a 24-port Ethernet switch. It's a mixer. It's a stereo receiver. It's 5 monitors, multiple computers, telephone system, router. Those are all connected via wires. Those wires will pick up the pulses. If you have your cell phone plugged in, charging it, those are wires. If your router's plugged in, if your TV's plugged in, if your radio's plugged in, and if it's a new solid-state device that runs real fast, has a computer in it, those are all likely to be damaged by these electromagnetic pulses. I have a barn, and it's got steel roof, steel sides, and steel doors that slide 12 by 12. What am I going to do? Well, I keep those darn barn doors closed as much as possible to keep the electromagnetic pulse from wiping out our tractors and electronics in the barn. I have disconnect switches on our solar system. I can disconnect it at any point so that the wires of the grid, which is also the grid here at the farm, those wires are not connected to my system. that powers, the inverter and the batteries and the solar panels. So all that's going to be disconnected. Now, what do you do about these small devices? Well, if you want to protect them and you've got a metal garbage can, the kind we used to make before we improved them and made them out of plastic, well, if you have a lid, you can put those devices that you really want to protect in that garbage can, steel garbage can, and you ground the steel garbage can. You have a ground rod and a copper wire, and you attach the copper wire securely to the garbage can in the lid.
And that has to be a heavy-duty copper wire, by the way.
Yeah, not some skinny speaker wire.
That's right. If you don't immediately have one, okay, here is a good way of improvising a heavy-duty copper wire. You get a standard extension cord, okay, you strip off the insulation from one end and wrap all of the ends of copper together. You strip off the insulation from the other end. You wrap all the ends of the wire together. You wrap one end around the handle of the metal rubbish bin, and you wrap the other end around the grounding rod. And if you don't have a spare extension cord at home, well, you must be poor.
Or you can take one of those.
Unprepared.
Or you can take, an unused power cord from some device that you don't use anymore.
Yeah,
cut the ends off.
Right. Anything that's able to be connected to 120 or 240 volts.
Yeah.
Will probably do the trick.
And what you're trying to do, class, is triple up the conductors. That's what you're trying to do. We'll be right back. Class, if you'd like to learn more about Guineith Isaacs, just go to usaprepares.com, click on the Instructors tab, and you'll find more information about her also on page 1 of USA Prepares. Class, we don't know if this is going to happen. I want to make sure it's clear. We don't know. We don't have more information than others. We're in the dark, too. However, we know that this can happen. And if there is an EMP, if there is a grid down situation, there will be widespread internet outages, which for me means I'm on vacation from the radio. The internet's down, Vinny's off the air. Okay? I won't have sources of information. A number of our instructors will not be able to contact me because the phone systems will be down as well. So, very little in communication, very little in information. If you want to know what I'm talking about, watch Jericho. I've been assigning this as homework, required homework, for years. Jericho, it's on Netflix. Well, you can still watch it. If you want to see what I believe is going to happen, it's there. It's all there. I got a call last night from one of our instructors. I assigned Jericho. She binged watched it, and she told me it was what I said, the best television series ever in terms of education, in terms of information. Excellent. If you want to see what's going to happen, in my opinion, there it is with Jericho. Anyway, the internet is vulnerable.
Yep. I just wanted to say as well, we've only got a few minutes left in this broadcast. If you're in another country, other than, this EMP is not just going to affect the United States. It's also probably going to affect Canada and Mexico as well, okay, because of the magnitude of bomb that they will have to use. So you're basically talking about no electrical supply in the United States, although many people in Mexico don't have an electrical supply anyway, so it's going to be irrelevant for them. They have a much higher level of self-sufficiency down there from what I've heard. But something, just about every major tech company on Earth has their main servers in Silicon Valley. Google, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube especially. But, just about name any company that is a real big boy player anywhere on the internet, and you can just about guarantee that their servers are either going to be in Silicon Valley or somewhere else in the continental United States, okay? Probably maybe somewhere on the East Coast, But they're probably, unless they are happen to be owned by the deep state, then they are not going to be there. But even if they are owned by the deep state, they're going to be in some bunker somewhere, but the rest of the grid's going to be fried, and they're not going to be able to send their signals anymore anyway. If you're in another country, you need to think long and hard about what no internet globally means for you, okay? What no search engines globally means for you. About well over 90% of internet searches go through Google. Probably the majority of the rest of them go through Bing, and only a fraction of a percent actually still go through an old search engine or a search engine such as Start Page. Most of Start Page's results come from Google anyway. You need to have a good, long, hard think about this, okay, about what no information means for you, okay? And for me, it will mean that I get to go on a holiday and get a lot more farm work done because the company that I work for is based in California.
Yeah.
So I get to have some time off until when and if they get their system back online, which might be never.
Yeah, and all those companies that fall apart, and all those employees that go home, they'll all have to be rebuilt, maybe from scratch.
It might never
thank
happen.
you so much for sharing. That's correct.